order this June 4th, 2019 meeting of the Planning and Economic Development Committee. And the first order of business today is the approval of minutes from our March 5th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any changes or additions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Next up, we move to our discussion items, and the first discussion item is growth development strategies with Mr. Adam Chapman, our planning director.
Good evening, afternoon.
Good evening.
So planning has been asked to take a first step towards creating entry corridors into the county. This is that first step. What we'll be looking at is motive, why we're looking at these. We're going to define them, we're going to locate them, which corridors, the scope, the area impacted geographically by the corridors, a matrix, a list of possible parameters for us to look at, the process, how to get there from here, and then just any questions or comments y'all might have. So included in your backup material, this one, is several pages worth of intent statements from other corridor plans from throughout the country that kind of stood out and spoke out to us briefly. And that's really the intent of that, is to give you all a jumping off point for intent. Because we really want to create somewhere you want to be. So what we're doing versus why we're doing it. We're going to create places of dense economic and social interactions which create value for private owners and public utilizing the area through curb appeal. Why we're doing this is because when people drive into Oconee County, they need to know they're here. They don't just, shouldn't be a pass-through county. This shouldn't be somewhere they're just going in between 2 points. And so we want people to stop here and come back here and look forward to driving into Oconee County. And we really want to promote our property owners, promote our businesses through curb appeal, through design. We want to preserve our land because we're not making any more of it. And we want to protect our small businesses that are currently here. So define. So corridor is an area or stretch of land identified by a specific common characteristic or purpose, with the focus on specific common characteristic or purpose. If we come up with a purposeful set of characteristics that speak to community identity, that can be a really powerful tool. If we get the people of the community involved in designing their community, that's a very powerful statement for people to say that this is us, this kind of design is us. It's been shown that standards for buildings, commercial buildings, add value, economic value to an area. Included in your backup material is the abstract and conclusion from an MIT thesis that done in 2005 that qualifies that I have scientific backup for that statement. I do have the other 90 pages of that if y'all want to go over that right now. We have time for that right now? Okay, all right.
After executive session.
Yes, sir. I'll be here. All right. So locate. So we've identified 13 corridors, major corridors in and out of the county. Which ones should we start looking at? Should the planning department, should the county start looking at to make standards for? And this is kind of a question for you all. Exit 3 there, because it's not really an exit at the moment, that's why it's got the earrings on it. But other than that, that's my question to y'all is, which of these entry corridors would you all like for us to start looking at?
Whether the committee supposed to respond right now?
If you like to, or I can just keep going.
Okay. I didn't know if that was rhetorical or if you actually want a response. And I'll open it up to the rest of the committee for discussion if that's appropriate. And
maybe let's get through the presentation first.
Okay.
And come
Sure.
back around to that.
Okay. All right. The next part would be the scope of the projects. It is basically the distance, the width, the areas impacted. Once we pick out the entryways, we'll have to pick out how wide they are, how long they are, nodes, like particular areas. I prefer natural breaks, whether it be businesses or areas of development that already exist. We can kind of like say from here to here this is our corridor. But community identity is really kind of should go along with all this. What communities that we're putting these in are they? And then the matrix here. So also in your backup material, there's a spreadsheet of different counties throughout the South Carolina, North Carolina, that have corridors just like this one. And there are just a variety of different topics listed in those corridors. And if over the course of time, if we want to pick ones to look at to add to our corridor, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of stuff out there where we can kind of fine tune other people's work, which is great for me. The one thing I'd like to point out though for architectural design, that's why I put a little asterisk by it, if we do look at architectural design standards, we should probably also keep in mind of having some sort of board to review that architecture over the course of time. It's just another step, but just something to keep in mind. The process, community input being the big one, planning outcome development, planning commission, council. So I see this being, we've had really great turnout with all the other community events we've had lately for the comprehensive plan, the 123, we had great turnout. So I would see this kind of thing generating significant public interest, and we should be able to get a lot of good input from the community, such as we've been getting. And that's my, for this portion of the plan, that's what I have for entry corridors for you all at the moment.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah.
Talk about entry corridors. One thing I'd like to see on there, which is, I know we have a ton of, and it's not asking for a study because I know the studies already exist, about dealing with the amount of traffic in specific corridors and the entryways to those corridors. Obviously, the Clemson coming in is probably one of the higher trafficked areas in there. That's definitely one. I know we have the new sign up, but I would love to see a partnership with us, and I know people out there are going to gasp when I say the railroad, but to kind of help clean up that area in there. It's always seemingly been a trash pickup nightmare. Just the what grows there is whatever is planted there. So I would be interested to see if the railroad would actually be interested in partnering with us to that right side. The left side's going to stay clean with Hartwell Village. Obviously, they're doing a phenomenal job, but that right side is just junk, whatever has grown there. But I'm thinking that if there was a partnership with us and them to allow us to plant something in there that would be more appetizing to when you're coming in there, would be easier to take care of, especially grass-wise on there. Because we just rely on the state to mow that now, I'm sure. And they mow it, I guess they mow about as much grass as they do trash. But to me, that would help that specific area, and that would be very financially, now that we have the sign up, excuse me, that would be, to me, would really help that entrance area there. Because if you go on the other side, on the 93 bridge coming in there, those sides are controlled both by Clemson, and that's really cleaned up that area in there as well. But for that one, specifically, that'd be one kind of partnership I'd like to see what could actually come out of that. Whether it's, more of a turf look, like a grass area, or if it's some kind of something that grows besides weeds and kudzu that they have growing up through there now. I know obviously the idea is erosion control, and obviously that would be a concern too. Just a thought on that one. Some of the entryways over there, we need to make people understand that the county plan is not kudzu, that we actually can grow other stuff around these areas. Apologize. But I think those are the things that we need to clear up around those areas. And I don't know what kind of buffers we can, whether it's contact with people that own property in those areas to help us maintain those a little bit coming into our signage. It's not taking over. It's just, a lot of these people, they don't have houses by those areas, and maybe there's something that they'll allow us to do in those areas, very similar to how I'm talking about with that partnership.
Yeah.
But the traffic numbers is what I would really like to see, what those are. And I'm sure there's a plan somewhere that would show the number of cars down the 130, 107, 28, so we kind of know what the highest traffic areas would be without sitting up here guessing.
Yes, sir. The landscape would be great. Do any sort of landscaping project, those are always look really nice. And for traffic, we can certainly, I know there's things already ready-made that we can certainly put before you.
Okay. And that possibly be a project that, Clemson may be willing to work on a partnership with us, because people are obviously traveling through us to go to Clemson as well. So, you know, I think that may complicate things a little bit, but at the same time, you know, if there's, you know, willing to, you know, the other side of it, they have, of course, their new project coming over there where the Holiday Inn is. But they've done a good job on the other side of it, not on curb cuts, but on some other things that they've done with the lighting and everything like that. So maybe there's something that we could do on that, railroad bank.
And I think the entrances to Lake Kiwi, the corridors that go to Lake Kiwi, 130, I guess 28 and Kiwi School Road, I would like us to, at 130, we could probably work with a partnership with Duke Power on 130. And of course, we know we got a traffic problem on 28 and Kiwi School Road, but I think, you know, the Lake Kiwi draws a lot of people. We get a lot of tourists, a lot of visitors on Lake Kiwi, and I think, you know, if we protect those areas with a corridor plan to make it beautiful, now that we're talking about 123, I think, to me, that makes sense.
That Highway 11 would be another one. I think, you know, the signage and stuff up there is done really good. I just kind of wish there was a place to pull off right there at the sign, you know. So, no, don't. I'll pull off at the sign and take my picture by the sign. So, but I think it's definitely a vast improvement on there. And that's a very, you know, great entrance area over there. So, but I mean, and that area over there is protected a little bit more too, because you have the huge granite wall on the right side that nothing's going to happen coming up through there. But maybe we need to focus a little bit on some of these corridors and also look at, you know, some enhanced trash pickup in those areas. I know we've done a good job. I know the sheriff's done a good job, but you know, maybe from a community support, we can focus on some of these entrance corridors. But you know, that one that I brought up on 123, me and Mr. Kane picked up at that area, and it's extremely difficult. That ditch on that side is, I think I still got a shoe lost over there. So, but those are the things that I see that, especially around our natural resources, we need to do the best we can around those areas. Does that kind of give you something to go on without going crazy?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chapman, you mentioned the entry corridors identified by staff on here. Two other ones that I think should probably be considered are 183, and because that's a pretty big entryway from Pickens County. I don't know the traffic on that, but I would assume it's pretty substantial. And then also 188, that's more of an internal, but as Mr. Elliott pointed out, you know, that's a lot of lake-related transportation traffic happens on that 188 corridor. So, to Mr. Davis's point, I think we do need to know, if you could tell us what the traffic. I know DOT probably has figures within the past few years. I mean, I've looked at them for some of these corridors. But figuring out what the traffic is, what the number of vehicles per day or ADTs on these corridors, and also what staff's capacity is to begin the process. Because what we don't want to do is say, all right, let's do all of them, right? You don't want us to do that probably.
Not at the moment, sir.
Okay. So if you have an idea of how many you could look at once, and I don't know if we want to establish a matrix or criteria for what we need to look at. I mean, I think the number of average daily trips is a key piece of data we need, datum. And because the more people traveling along those roads, the more, I think, risk of injury or the importance to tourism that corridor, you know, the more people traveling on it, more likely the more
Sure.
impact on tourism it's going to have. So we may need to focus on it more. I mean, do y'all have any other types of things that you want to look at? I mean, John, are you just interested in focusing on the corridors that affect your district, like Kiwi?
Well, I think that we, you know, the traffic count survey would be great, but here again, it's like the 28 Kiwi School Road, is that if you do it in the wintertime, that's not when we have all the tourists and visitors. You gotta get those counts in the summertime, because that's where all our tourism and visitors come from, is the summer.
I think I was just trying to pick out a top four, in my personal opinion. And that would be the 123, exit 1, 76, and 130. Would kind of be my thoughts.
Are there any, okay, so Julian, you said 130,
123 would be my number one.
okay?
But the simplicity with that one, realistically, would be to start with that railroad area, to kind of work with them on what we can and can't put there. Exit 1, that could also be a project with the state as well. I've seen where the state is helping with a few grants, as well as the county is doing these signage and stuff like that, because I think definitely we could get some funding on that, exit 1. I feel like a lot of the traffic that Oconee County is getting is coming in between 123, exit 1, and 76. The 130, I think, is definitely, you know, you get your Greenville side of things, but it seems to me like the massive flow comes in from those specific areas.
Thanks for adding on that.
And I know there is some talks to improving 76. They're doing some good things with there, but I mean, that road's as busy as I've ever seen it, so.
So if I were to say find out the data and find the entryways with that, I can give you the same list, except with ADT, average daily trips on them. Would that help your process? Would that be helpful?
Is there any other information that the committee needs to give direction, like any other data? Points?
I'm saying no initially for any other direction that the committee would need to give, but I think the committee itself would need to look at the matrix. What should the entry corridors address? There's the page just before the process page. I think some of the things while we collect our data, maybe in your own minds, you would need to weigh out the importance and prioritize the vegetative buffers, the distance and height billboards, so that each one of the entry corridors, there you go, each one of the entry corridors has a sense of community identity. Say if you're coming into Fairplay, that community identity may be very different than if you're coming in from 28 on 107 from the mountains. And I think looking at those in relation to each of those corridors would help us identify what the next steps should be, or what we could do to facilitate the desires of the council and the committee.
So if we set with those four, because naming the 123, exit 176, and 130, just to give a start, so it's not this huge project we're trying to kind of look at four pieces.
Yeah, I mean, I also want to make sure, I mean, I'd like to spread it out for sure, so we have different types. I think it makes sense.
Yeah.
If we have, say, 5 different types of roads, sort of like you have your different, I don't even know what these things
And
are
I
called.
think, you know, your 123 would kind of be your highway, your exit
Yeah.
1 would be your interstate, your 76, and your 130 is kind of your rural roads. So it kind of gives you,
And just for our clarification, 123 north or south, please?
coming in from Clemson. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more traffic between Seneca and Clemson than there is between Seneca and
Toccoa.
Georgia.
I don't
Yeah.
disagree, but
Yeah.
knowing that we just had a corridor study on that portion of 123, I was
Yeah.
wondering
Well,
why we
I
didn't do
mean,
that for this.
I think the idea would be figure out a classification, so to speak, of roads and what things we need to consider on these different factors,
Yep.
this matrix. I mean, I would assume that there's some places that we don't, like, we probably don't want billboards on Highway 11. Some people do want billboards on Highway 11. That's the way it is in Oconee County. There's gonna be somebody who doesn't like something we do, no matter what we do.
Sure, and the state does govern Highway 11 as far as billboards and signage since it's a state scenic.
Okay, and so maybe we say, all right, are there any other,
Well, we could create internal scenic highways. I love that. Serious. We do have internal scenic highways. The county could then regulate within itself.
sure. I was just using that as an example, like, so there's some highways that we may want to apply the same type of restrictions to. So we have these different classes, like, so this one is a heavily traveled commercial corridor and would be less likely that we would restrict signage as much in that area as it would be maybe a residential area. You know, being that's, I would assume, the people of the communities that travel along these roads will want to have input in this. And I think that's key, is that we're not saying from the top down, this is what you're going to have on your corridor. They tell us what they want on that corridor. And I mean, I've never been through this process per se, so you're the planning expert. So if you have a particular process you think would be most efficient, or Ms. Brock, if you have a process you think would be most efficient, or whomever, to begin classifying roads and making sure we're hitting each type of road, like a rural highway or a scenic highway or a residential highway or a commercial highway. I don't know if that's the right way to divvy it up, but if there's, that way we can say, these are the things we think we should consider on this type of highway. These are the, you know.
And I look at this kind of twofold, the kind of talk that I had with the 123, you know, the ease of starting your entrance to show that, you know, we're serious about trying to create something. You know, you got Clemson University where the water tower is on the other side of that area. And that's kind of when I kind of bring them into, I should say Clemson University rather than Clemson, but, you know, for them to work with that side to make it more of a natural appearance, and help easier to clean, as well as working on our side across from Hartwell Village going up that hill. So you're creating an entrance corridor all the way through. So, you know, whatever you decide, there's not a lot of vacant land. So a lot of people kind of go nuts when you're talking about corridor planning. There's not a lot of vacant land on 123. Many of us have reached out to owners of those properties to kind of talk to them about, you know, what they see their land is. Some of them have done some great stuff, you know, up there where Issaquah Pediatric Dentistry is, that interior cut and that setback and that's a great looking piece of property. And that's been the decision for the developers and the owners of those buildings to do those things. But that's a safe entry and exit to those areas, and that was what those business owners were concerned with. But I think from the standpoint that what I would see just to kind of kickstart this would be to really think about that entrance from there all the way up to the entrance to Epic, Harts Cove, and the diner on the other side.
Well, and we have, you know, a corridor plan under development, and it's probably getting close to presentation, but, what type of direction are y'all looking for? Do you want us to select those four, or say, let's aim at these 4 corridors that Julian mentioned?
If I may. So you talking about kind of, let's see, classifying roads. That's something that can be done, and the ADTs, that information can be brought forward. We can start looking and kind of breaking it up into bite-sized pieces. So whichever, you know, road type A, here's a bite-sized piece for y'all to look at. Is this something that feels right? B, C, D, and so on and so forth. And Mr. Davis, specifically your thoughts about the landscaping along that big buffer there. SCDOT has like a 265-foot, I believe, right-of-way there. That's something that actually could fall. It's a good plan to have, but because that's SCDOT right away and ownership, we could actually look at that as another bite in and of itself, because it doesn't affect any people's private property.
Correct.
So we can certainly look at that, and that may be, it's low-hanging fruit to maybe overgeneralize it is working with the railroad. But that's something that we don't have to look at any one particular property and say, hey, let's talk about this. It's the state. So we can certainly look at all these pieces individually and come up with something for y'all.
Would you need a motion? We need a motion for that, for
I
direction.
don't believe so. For clarity, if you would, that'd be fine. I would like to request though, since we do have a couple of members of the planning commission here, that we get the planning commission's input and guidance, since they've done matrices in the past and have helped council set priorities with that. I think that would be a valuable resource to the staff and to council.
So do we need a formal motion to refer?
You would need a motion for that, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Would need a motion to refer it to the planning commission to work with the planning director. I'm not sure I've wrapped my mind around exactly what the task is.
Corridor focus, corridor entry focus.
Okay, so
Let's call it phase 1.
you know what phase 1 is, Mr. Chapman?
I will gather the data requested. I will come up with the different silos for the different kinds of classifications for the road. I will create bite-sized pieces for this committee to look at and say, does this feel right in regards to certain parameters? I believe I do. I believe so. Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion just so it's clear. The corridor phase 1 focus, I don't know how many phases we're gonna have, but it would, start with the 123 Clemson entrance, exit 1, 76, and 130.
Second.
And that's to refer to the planning commission?
Refer to the
For
planning
focus.
commission, which will work with the planning director. Phase 1 focus.
Now, well, you're not looking at 30 different entrances in Oconee County.
All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chapman.
No problem.
Next.
Hi, I'm Adam Chapman. I'm here with you. All right, so I was asked to give a little update on the comprehensive plan. We've had incredible community turnout so far. I mean, we've had hundreds of people at these meetings. You all have been to these meetings. The surveys that we have go out in the newspaper, as well as surveys online, as well as in person. We've gotten hundreds of those returned. We have 4 elements drafted. We have an executive summary, kind of subcommittee trying to work on formatting an executive summary that is something that you all will want to read and to pass around, and that you'll be able to read. It won't be a 300-page phone book. It'll be a 20-page, oh, look, this is interesting graphics and things of that nature. Seems to be we're on time with the schedule for it. Hopefully get to you inside December. And then I always need more public to come to meetings. You know, although we have hundreds of people show up so far, we have 77,500 people in the county. I could always use more people. So the more the merrier, the more input the merrier. These are some reoccurring themes. Interesting thing about going through these meetings is that throughout the county, I receive a lot of the same information: jobs, traffic, crime, things of that nature, which is good from a planning perspective, so I can focus on something like this is overarching things. But I also get brought little things that are really important that people aren't necessarily talking about. For instance, internet or lack thereof for the rural communities. Maybe these are not things that get brought up a lot, but enough where it's something that I'll push forward. We will have 4 more outreach meetings, Salem, Westminster, the Fairplay, Oakway area. I don't really have that worked out yet, and Mountain Rest as well. And hopefully we'll get really, really good data from everyone. I'm really glad with the turnout we have. So does anyone have any questions about the comprehensive plan at the moment?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Just wanted to kind of speak a little bit. You know, we talked about some initial timings that we did our meetings at. The one in District 4. I felt like it was very well attended for, you know, something. I think there was 12 to 15 people there. I know that we had one here that was very well attended. The amount of surveys and everything, I mean, I'm 38 and I've been in this county a long time, and I never remember comprehensive plan slapping you in the face all the time. You hear it on 94.1. You hear, there's a lot of talk about being involved in the comprehensive plan. You know, my son's got some stuff from his school about it. So I think you're really doing it, your team's really doing a good job at getting it out there. You know, and I think that's what, you know, that's what we're trying to do is to get people involved in it. And, you know, getting people involved with what we do on a daily basis. And I've heard some people say, well, you know, there was only 10 people there. Well, that was 10 people that cared enough to be there. And if we worked on an effort to say that county council's only successful because we have 5 citizens that show up to our council meetings, if that's what we're gauging our success on, then we're gonna fail. Because I know what y'all are reaching out and what you're doing in the comprehensive plan. I know what the planning commission's doing. I know what staff's doing. I know what the advertisement's doing. I know what the media's doing to get this out there. And people are really caring what we're doing. And I just want that out there. And I appreciate the amount of time that you're spending doing it. And Willis, I know he's doing a ton of stuff back there too. Frankie's been at a lot of them, and I appreciate all the council that's been there. I mean, we're really making a great effort to make sure that this is the best comprehensive plan that's ever been put out there. And I appreciate everybody that's being involved in it, from the media, council side, everything. It truly is gonna be a great project. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you for all the input, and again, I agree with Mr. Davis. The more community involvement, the stronger the plan is. I mean, if we had 100% community involvement, nobody could, well, there'd probably be a lot more arguments about what we should do because it'd be split all across the board, but we can only plan if we know what the community desires are to how this place is to become the best Oconee County that it can be. And certainly appreciate all your work and the staff and the volunteers with our boards and commissions that show up as well. All right, we moving on to 123.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Once again, excellent community participation. You all may have seen that on what we had up here. We had just tons of community participation. So the status of it is I have the final draft right now in my hands. However, we have a potentially exciting little portion of it that I'm trying to wrangle people from Duke and other people out of North Carolina to come and speak before I give it to you all. So major takeaways: bus stops, turn lanes, shared access or frontage roads, like you mentioned at Union Station down there on 123. Multi-use sidewalks. That's, you know, being able to use a sidewalk for more than just walking, but as a bike path as well. Get cyclists off, if they so chose, off the main arteries. And greenways like the Doodle Trail or the Swamp Rabbit. Now, these are some of the graphics. I have these hanging up in the hallway right over here. But this one right here, this is and I've driven past this however many times. Maybe you all have driven past this a million times. Wells Highway and 123. Now, if you drive past there, now you look at it, you'll never not be able to see it. But there's about a 200-foot wide Duke easement. Duke has to maintain that easement. Duke would love not to have to pay to maintain that easement. And if we put something like that on there, using perhaps other sources of funds, that could be something that's that you all may have some interest in. So that's what's dragging this out to. We probably won't have till August. I have the draft, probably won't be presented till August, because I'd like to get all the people who are doing this in other places in the same room and have a little powwow with them, especially if there's other people's money to spend. So that's what's going on with the corridor. Something like this too, that's relatively inexpensive. I don't know that much about construction, but that's basically peel and stick facade. That's on the bridge, and that looks great. And that's a sign from Destination Oconee. So there's a lot of great things that hopefully, when I finally officially put the plan in front of you, that you all will take a liking to. So.
Thank you. Yeah, one other thing, and I think this will come out of our what we've just referred to. I'm sorry to keep you up here.
No, it's fine.
One thing we just referred to Planning Commission was development of general guidelines based on, or I guess factors to consider for different types of corridors. And I think that as we continue to develop the corridor and this particular corridor plan, I think it would be good to maybe focus on 123 initially with those factors. And I don't know if we need to have another motion or clarify that, but since we're already pretty well done with this particular one, we probably should look at all of the other facets that are on that, the factors that you can look at. Does
I'll
that
make
make?
a motion.
Second.
And what's the motion?
To look at the other factors and continue moving forward through.
On the Highway 123 corridor?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so specifically, and is this a motion to refer to Planning Commission of those
The focus,
particular ones? Okay,
yes.
I think it's the tag along with the first vote.
okay. All right, do I
Yes,
have a
sir.
second?
Yes, you do.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sorry. Okay, thank you. Let's get one done. All right,
Yes, sir.
thank you.
You want that, John?
Ms. Hartman, and now we'll have our economic development update with Ms. Janet Hartman. Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. As Katie's bringing up the presentation, I'd like to thank you for your time and remind you at the last meeting in March, as you just read in your minutes, I presented the action plan for 2019 and went through a number of the initiatives and different areas our department was going to focus on. So as I go through tonight, I just want to give you an update on some of the things that have happened since that last meeting. But before I start, I'd like to introduce my team who came tonight. Without them, what you're seeing tonight would not be happening. And I don't say that lightly. So I have Daja Dial, who is our marketing communications manager. I have Morgan Holcomb, who I think this is her first council attendance. She is the new graphic designer, and she is the one that you get to thank for all of the great graphics we are now using as we market Oconee County. And then we have Emily Hodge, who is our research and existing industry person. Emily's the one who pulls together all the numbers. So as Adam is looking for additional traffic count studies, Emily could probably assist with that as well. So
Did
we
you tell
are-
Morgan about the prize she wins if she stays after executive session?
I'm not going there. So anyway, thank you very much for your attendance and attention. I'll just get right into, okay, I'm just gonna have you do it now. Get into my update for this evening, and as I said, you know who we are, you know what we do as an economic development team, but I wanted to utilize these next couple of slides again to reinforce we are rebranding who we are. We're giving ourselves a fresher look and approach as we go out into the community, into the region, and into the state and outside of the state to tell folks who the Oconee Economic Alliance is. So again, we are the economic development team for the county. We market and recruit, and we work with the existing industry and workforce and all of those things. So who we are, what we do, and in a great form to be able to show that to visitors. The next slide, I know some of you say, boy, we see this all the time, but to me, this is a constant reminder of what is underneath that umbrella of the Oconee Economic Alliance. And you saw just earlier, Adam was using the Destination Oconee logos. That's a big part of our image and our brand, and I'm glad to see that that's being utilized in our community planning and corridor studies and those types of things. Another piece I want to, again, recognize and reiterate is the NOW program. So we started that with the school district a couple of years ago with the NOW program. They had 10 kids out of each of the high schools that entered into this program. I won't go into the history of that, but the exciting thing is just this past May, we had 10 NOW scholars. And our team put together with Chad Lusk and his group out at Hamilton Career Center a signing night as part of their scholars program and part of their awards night. There were 10 students that went through the NOW program that are now working in industry after graduation, which is exactly what we set that program up to be. So very excited that that continues, and we're continuing to support that with whatever initiatives we can pull together with the school district and our industries, obviously. Next is another piece of branding, but one of the things that we also do, as you know, is market our industrial parks. So Morgan and Emily have really spent a lot of time putting together the information that we have to promote what these industrial parks hold. And this is just an example of the OITP park out on Highway 11. And again, focusing on the Hamilton Career Center, soon to be open, Tri-County Tech Workforce Development Campus out there. But this is a packet that when we get a request for information, they're wanting to know what's inside that park, what kind of certifications are done on that park, and this packet includes all of that information in a much more visibly attractive and easy to read and easy to find information. So really proud of how we highlight what we offer as a product here in Oconee County.
And you're marketing all of the parks in Oconee County?
All parks, yes, sir. Sorry that we picked
No,
YTP,
that's
but
fine.
yes, all
Just
three
want to
parks.
reiterate.
Are
I
you
will-
marketing Golden Corner Commerce Park?
Sir, we have a packet for Golden Corner and Seneca Rail Site as well.
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you.
And possibly
Thank you,
we will
Mr.
show those
Chairman,
at
for
the
bringing
next
that up.
meeting, yes. Next slide, just again announces and reinforces our first announcement in a new industry coming to Oconee County. You guys obviously are very familiar with this, but that is, the project is well on its way, $20 million investment, 125 jobs. That 105 square foot building as of last week has increased to 115,000 square feet. They met with contractors last week and hopefully will choose a contractor to begin construction on that building. Very excited. They also have started their hiring. They're working with Phillips Staffing and looking to hire a plant manager here in the next 30 to 60 days. So good things happening there. They are very impressed with Oconee County. The leadership team was here last week, and our team took them to Jazz on the Alley on Thursday evening, and they got to spend an evening in downtown Seneca. They thought the party was thrown for them, so it all worked out wonderfully. So we're very happy about how that all worked out. They think when they come to visit the plant as it's being built, they will schedule it around Thursday nights at Jazz. So just a good way to continue to promote who we are and what we do in the county. Next is Perry Ellis. This is just an update for you. Many of you know about this. If you remember back in 2017, and some of you may not, we had what was called Project Goggles, and that was the Janssen plant, which is now Perry Ellis. They did some expansion, they did some renovations within in their facilities, but they also have partnered with Duke and Con Edison, and they now have 2,400 solar panels on the roof of that 83,000 square foot building, and they'll be running most of their power consumption. The consumption will decrease based on those solar panels. So they had a ribbon cutting on April 15th that we attended and congratulated them and all that. So great project there as well, just continuing with some of the things we've done in the past. Now a couple of product development items for you. The next one is Seneca Rail. As you know, we have the entrance road. You approved the award to J. Davis Construction. We've had the pre-construction meeting and signed all the documents with J. Davis. That road project will begin soon. We are, however, waiting for a contract back from Norfolk Southern because obviously we're going to be working in their right of way. So we need to make sure that we meet their requirements, and we're working through that agreement right now. But that project shall be started as soon as possible. Next is also still Seneca Rail Site, and the exciting news there is we are going to have the funds to begin the construction of the water and sewer infrastructure out there. Thanks to the team of Amanda, Miss Brock's team, and Emily from our team, and working with the engineer to put together the application to RIA in record time. And we were approved the $500,000 grant. We got word of that last week. We'll be submitting the paperwork. Yes, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Be submitting paperwork with the contract to get that going. And then that is a project, obviously, we will work with the city of Seneca. They actually paid Goodwin Kaywood Mills for the master plan. They've already worked with Norfolk Southern to get a permit because the water line has to come underneath the railroad, and they have that permit in hand already. So this project, once we get all the paperwork signed with RIA, we can begin working forward on that. So what this gives us now at Seneca Rail is we have an entrance road that someone can drive in and see the park and see the space that they would like to build a facility, and we can provide them water and sewer when they get here. So very exciting news on that front.
Great job.
Next would be the conceptual drawing or conceptual image of Hamilton Career Center. If you've been by the park on Highway 11, they've done a lot of work now that the weather has cooperated and it's dried up enough. So this is a conceptual of their building, 132,000 square foot. They hope to be open. Well, the plan is they'll be open for classes in fall of 2020. So they will be doing their construction simultaneous with Horton coming up out of the ground as well. So there'll be a lot of activity at Highway 11 at the park off of Highway 11. And then the last slide, again, is Highway 11, and I don't mean to just be talking about OITP tonight, but there's a lot going on there as well. If you remember, there was to be a southern entrance to that facility with the entrance to really the Workforce Development Campus, and then we have our main entrance that goes into the park. This is something that, if you remember, DOT is going to administer this project, and we've been kind of going in circles and getting things together. We now have all of the paperwork, they have all the signed plans, and DOT should be letting this project in August of 2019. So they will, hopefully all goes well, construction prices haven't gone crazy, and we'll get that piece done. Just a reminder, what they will be doing as their part of the project that we did get additional funding from the RIA, or ARC, excuse me, wrong acronym, ARC, they will be doing what is on Highway 11 as far as improvements up to the entrance of Tri-County Tech on this drawing, the left-hand side. The county, with the help of Blue Ridge Electric, will be completing that loop to then connect that corner. And the rest of that project will start this summer as well. So lots of construction going on. I need to quit wearing heels and come in boots because I'll be spending some time at the parks, but all is good when the weather's good. So we're happy to continue those projects. A lot of activity, very excited for what's coming for Oconee County. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. That's exciting news, and I think it is a lesson for the county going forward. You know, prior councils acquired a lot of land, but it was not ready to go. And so you see all of this infrastructure investment at a time when construction prices are at record highs. And it's unfortunate, but we're having to put the pipes and the roads in the ground when everybody else is. But, you know, hopefully when times are lean, we'll make sure that we have, you know, and this does not reflect poorly on y'all at all. Y'all have done an excellent job. But, you know, making sure from a strategic standpoint that Oconee County always has build-ready sites and ways to get into the parks is so key.
Right. And I'll mention the grant awards that we're receiving are a testament to how we've handled those in the past. Because obviously if you have a grant that you don't handle well, you don't do all the proper documentation and reporting, that reflects poorly when you go to apply for another. So, you know, kudos to people in the past who've completed that information in the timely manner that they have.
Sure. Yeah, thank y'all. Thank you for your leadership and your good work.
Mr. Chairman, one other thing. The spec building funds, how are those being held at this moment?
Spec building loan funds from Santee Cooper are in a bank account. The loan amount was $3 million, and that money is still intact.
Okay, so we haven't spent any of that money?
No,
And we
sir.
cannot spend that money?
We cannot unless we build a spec building.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any unfinished business? Any new business?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.